Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Starlit 𝓢𝓸𝓬𝓲, a sacred space where art becomes ritual and creation becomes magic. I'm your host, Star Watcher, and here we explore the cosmic dance between witchcraft and creativity and the soul. Today marks the first chapter in our series, Being an Art Witch, and in this opening episode, we're diving into the glowing heart of it all: creativity, imagination, and the wild spark of your inner child. This is where the journey begins, at the source of the fire. Now, before I continue, I want to first mention that this new podcast series is just my take on art witchery and spirituality. It's not talked about a lot, and I wish to simply spread my thoughts and wisdoms in regards to it. So please only take my words as advice and food for thought. I just feel like I have a lot to offer and put on to the table for you guys. So I'm excited for this. Now, I had also did a little reading. I shouldn't have put the card back, but I ended up getting the Magician. And the Magician today, if you don't know, is the full moon on August the 9th. It does have a name. I believe it's based off of a fish, but I forgot the name. I'm sorry, you guys. But the card I had pulled for you guys for this, podcast and everything is the Magician. Now, intuitively, what I got from this card, and maybe it's because at the time of filming this, it's a special day that I dedicated for Loki, but it's bringing in his energy in a sense of mastering your skills and just harnessing it and truly using it as your tool, for like just manifesting, bringing in abundance and prosperity, wealth, even just it's this need and energy to just do some work right now. Just do something, put your energy out there, and make it work for you is what I was getting from this card. Now, I'm not going to go completely into the card, I'm just telling you what I felt intuitively regarding it. But without further ado, let's actually move on to what this topic and discussion is for today's first episode. And that is the inner child and creativity. So, we all have an inner child. It can be hard to hear them, but they are there. The art witch doesn't just create from technique or intellect, alright? They create from memory, feeling, energy, and wonder, without judgment, criticism, and fear. The inner child is the first artist, the creator in training, and in a way, the connection to the divine. And if you don't already know, the creator is the god and goddess themselves. It is you and it is I. Our inner child drew without judgment and fear of making mistakes through art. They painted skies, not created skies. They painted skies with purple grass and pink suns. They didn't care about coloring outside the lines. They made up languages and games. They sang to trees and even toys. They truly explored what adults consider mundane now. That was magic. Back then, and it can still be now if we allow for it to. I want you to know that the practice of returning to the inner child is a ritual in itself. As adults, we unlearn our childlike wonder and innocence. We learn how to conform, preform, mask, how to filter, and how to explain certain things when words are just not necessary. Our perception dulls versus how it was when we were a kid. But see, the art witch reclaims that wild, unfiltered lens and says, my imagination and wonder is sacred and worthy. It doesn't hint at the fact that we're immature, but it does show we are full of life. Let's talk about a way to connect with this part of yourself real quick. Ask yourself in a quiet space or meditation. Meditation is great. Just saying. What used to make you lose time as a child? What kind of art did you do before someone told you before someone had to tell you you had to be good at it? Or when you first was praised and considered an inspiring artist? That is where their magic first lived. Before those questions interfered into your life. Around that time. Before it was seen and subtly pulled you into conditioning. And what I mean by conditioning is simply the act of now seeking validation and approval for the amazing work you did. Perhaps, maybe this wasn't you, but I speak from experience. I was often told a lot when I was younger that my artwork is amazing at the age of 7. I joined social media as a preteen and would post my artwork there. Hoping one day I'll become famous for it, or at least well known. This wasn't the case though. Surpriser, shocker. Instead, an ex-friend of mine joined Instagram for me telling her to use it as an art portfolio. And guess what? Her art and following got many more likes and views than mine ever did. And I mean, honestly, good for her. But in the long run, I didn't have good self-esteem back then, and it made me feel as if my art was nothing and I truly wasn't a good artist. I wanted and secretly sought that validation and approval that my art was just as good and worthy like her art. I wanted people to look at my art and, give me that validation of saying, like, oh yeah, that looks great. Like, oh, this art is beautiful. Like that type of validation, which I guess is compliments. And compliments don't always mean you're seeking validation. But in this case, it was me wanting that validation and approval. When in actuality, you should be creating art for no one else except for yourself. Now, for an audience, you don't need anyone's permission or approval when it comes to art. And honestly, the world doesn't even have to see it unless you want it to. Now, moving on to imagination. Imagination as a magical tool. Imagination isn't just pretend. It's portal work. That's right. It's portal work. It's what witches and artists use to cross thresholds, if you really think about it. When you visualize a spell working, or call on a deity, or even create a sigil, you are activating imagination with visualization. Is your bridge between the seen and the unseen. Art witches use imagination to re-enchant the world through a painting, a poem, or a handmade charm. They bend the veil and allow energy to move through them uniquely. When you imagine, some will tell you that you are just escaping reality. And at certain moments, this can be true, but as an artist with strong intentions, you're weaving with it instead. It is being used like a tool. And remember, not all art is just with paint and paper. You yourself are acting as a conduit, believe it or not, a vessel, an anchor for the spiritual world to flow through you and be present within the physical world. Like a medium, like a channeler. I personally like to think that we create things from our subconscious mind without realizing it. We always do things consciously, but again, I feel like art can also act as a way to enter and explore our subconscious mind more uniquely. Possibly like body mapping almost. I want you to understand that your mind and thoughts during this whole process is so powerful. And I mean, it's so powerful. If you put enough energy into something, it can become true. If you continue to feed a certain thought with that particular energy, it continues to grow. In some occult practices, thought forms and entities can form from such energies and workings, such as tulpas and egregores. You can mentally astral project. You can use your imagination for spell work, healings, and also shielding. You can create a mind palace or become aware of how your inner world is and how it works. Perhaps you'd want to create a world within a mirror or painting for spirits that need help that you can go to, back and forth to help them, but also just still continue to live your life here. You can even switch your consciousness to a different reality, like shifting and quantum jumping. The possibilities are truly endless, and our imagination is truly like that of fire and what it represents. It could be considered a form of pure energy, a link to universal consciousness in its own unique and complex way. But remember, for with such great power comes responsibility. Your imagination can be deadly. And not only to your targets and enemies, but even to your own vessel that is your body. Which is why it's good to take care of yourself, your mental health, your mind, everything in between. Now, let's think outside the box for a moment and what it means to walk the art witch path. I would say it is to challenge convention. You don't need expensive tools. You don't need formal training. You just need curiosity and courage. Art witches blend mediums, they paint outside the lines, and blur the lines between the sacred and mundane. Creativity thrives in freedom. So instead of asking, is this good? Try asking, is this honest? Is this alive? Perhaps even asking if it comes from your heart, your soul. You don't need to create art perfectly. You are to create imperfectly, even if your art looks good. We all have moments we create pieces and we see all the flaws within it. But when another person looks at it, they can't even see or picture what we're talking about or what we're even getting frustrated over. They see just the beauty of it. They don't see no mistakes with it at all, unlike we do. I know when I create pieces of art that I consider a form of taking a mental photo from a session with a deity or a spirit. I want it to be picture perfect. I want to capture every single little detail, but I can't. I can't. Even if I try, I get the skin tone wrong, my line on my artwork is shaky, I'm struggling to draw a dandelion, and then my inner critic wants to come in and fill me with doubt about how bad my art is looking. But see, this is when you take a breath, you look at it, and say, it's not supposed to be perfect. Perfection is an illusion, anyways, and I'm having fun being messy. No one is supposed to be following the line. You're supposed to be coloring outside of it with scribbles. You're not supposed to try and connect the dots swiftly. You're supposed to make a huge map with it before finding that the X marks the spot. You're not supposed to simply go to A and straight to B. And the same thing can be applied metaphorically to your spiritual path in life. Read between the lines. Really view and listen to what lurks between the liminal spaces as an artist, but also as the witch you are. Let's pause and reflect. Here are a few prompts to explore what this episode or to explore after this episode is what I mean, that I want to share with you. Okay. What did my inner child love to make? Was it macaroni jewelry? Shaving cream art? Painting? Explore it. Take a day, maybe even 10 minutes. Just explore it with your inner child, with yourself. Another prompt is, how do I use my imagination in everyday life with a magical twist? I'll let you ponder on that one. And lastly, where am I still trying to get it right instead of letting it flow? Like when you do watercolors. These are spells in themselves, tiny rituals of self discovery, and I urge you to even try and do shadow work with these prompts with an artistic expression. Allow your inner child and your soul and heart to express where words fail. Jam a marker into the paper, like your Michael Myers with the kitchen knife. I know I used to do that when I was a kid to make dots. And it was fun. Every now and then I still kind of do that because it's fun. My inner child loves that. uh, Another thing though, if you truly want to make your art sessions magical and just full of life, I would say, simply light a candle, incense, and bring a couple of crystals around. That is great for creativity. And that in itself is you making your space dedicated and sacred for your art time, your art session. Oftentimes, I'll take Loki's candle from his altar and I'll bring it down to where I'm doing art just to invite him to join me. And you can too. It's a nice little way of feeling their presence as well. Now, to be an art witch, for our closing thoughts for today's first episode, to be an art witch, in my opinion, is to remember that creation is a holy flame. And sometimes we need a spark to our ignition so it may spread like wildfire, but in a good way. It's to pick up a pen and brush and say, "This is my wand, and it's time to play again. It's time to feel again, to cast spells through color, sound, and through story." And I mean, even shamans use art for healing. Art can be therapeutic, and it can be used as a way to connect to the spirit. Thank you for stepping beneath the veil with me. If this episode stirred something in you, share with a fellow creative soul. Leave a comment, light a candle for your spirit, or simply whisper a truth into your art today. After all, it is the full moon. Until next time, keep creating, keep conjuring, and always honor the magic within. This is Star Watcher, and you've been listening to Starlit Veil of Crimson. 𝓤𝓫 𝓤𝓫